You and this place deserve to be in the valley.
Welcome to episode 20 of the Columbo podcast, where we definitely belong in the valley.
Episode 20, who'd have thunk it?
Quite a milestone.
Well, we're making progress through the series now. We're
Slowly but surely.
We're only about a dozen away from halfway.
Yeah, we do have a fair distance to go, haven't we?
Well, we'll get there by this time next year.
Okay. Good week.
Been a good week, yep. Plenty going on.
Enjoy this episode.
I did. We're on a run of good episodes right now, like I was promised. And, yep, very happy with this one.
Pleased to see the return of the fabulous Jack Cassidy.
Yes, I wonder if this was a big deal at the time, because obviously he'd been in the fabulous pilot, or first official episode, and this is him returning for the first time.
Mm-hmm. A fairly intricate plot we have this week. We've seen a few of these, so it's not quite as straightforward. There are a few twists and turns.
Yeah, I mean, again, you complained in the past about not knowing everything the killer was up to. Mm-hmm. We kind of had a little bit of that again, but I thought the episode was a strong one. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed the plot, and I enjoyed the investigation.
There were a lot of sort of self-referential and knowing nods in this episode, which we can chat through as we get to them.
I mean, you couldn't really get that in season 1 because it was new. Mm-hmm. I think they're doing a lot of it at the moment. We talked about it earlier in season 3 and at the end of season 2, the self-awareness of the show. So I think, they're doing better with it now than they were at that point.
We have a lot of similarities to Murder by the Book.
There's certainly some common themes.
Mm-hmm. The setting, the
literary world.
Mm. Before we start, Ian, do you want to say thank you or mention anyone?
I think we should say thanks to a couple of folk. First of all, our friend Craig, or our fan Craig, who was in Budapest recently and sent us a great photo from the Columbo statue with a picture of our logo and the Twitter address. That was good of him, so thank you for that one.
Thanks, Craig.
Also Kieran, whose musical talents are remarkable. He's put together a mix of his Columbo theme based on the Marino Brothers. So go and check that out in the comments of Any Old Port in a Storm if you want to hear that one.
Yeah, that was really enjoyable. Thank you.
And if you haven't caught his one from Murder by the Book, if you head back to episode 1 on columbopodcast.com, you can find it in the comments there.
You can. And generally, just thank you to everyone who comments and
well, we did a test last week. We said we'll do some subliminal messaging, and if our iTunes reviews or ratings go up, then we'll know subliminal messaging works. And if they don't, then the answer is that it doesn't work. And you said that you would be happy to admit that you were completely wrong if it worked.
I also tell a lot of lies. I'm not happy to admit anything.
What our highly scientific study shows is that subliminal messaging only works on Americans. We had a spike in reviews and ratings in America, but no new ones in the UK or elsewhere in the world. So apparently it works in America.
And thank you to everyone who was helpful in telling us how and when and why they listen to the Columbo podcast.
Yes, if people could keep giving us that information, that's really useful to us in terms of understanding our audience and what you need and what you enjoy.
Okay, Ian, how about this week's summary?
Publisher Parrish is a slight departure from previous episodes, as, for once, the primary villain is not the initial killer. Riley Greenleaf is a publisher who counts best-selling novelist Alan Mallory as amongst his most valuable writers. With Mallory's contract expiring and his latest novel set to be published by a rival company, Greenleaf hires Eddie Kane, a Vietnam veteran with a love for homemade explosives, to kill the writer, whose life the company has insured for $1 million. Framing himself for the killing, Greenleaf has Columbo on the wrong track altogether, but critical errors hand the lieutenant an opportunity to catch his culprit before the final page is turned.
An explosive summary there, Ian. Thank you.
We certainly got an explosive start to the episode, didn't we?
Yeah, very dramatic. I enjoyed it.
Stylised as well. It was quite an interesting technique by the director.
Yeah, freeze framing on the explosions.
On each one, yeah.
Yep.
I suppose they thought, we've spent that much money doing these explosions, we're going to show them for a lot longer than they take to happen.
Intriguing music as well. I enjoyed the soundtrack through this entire episode, actually, or the score.
It was a very different mood to the previous episode, so the music has to play a big part in conveying that, and I think, again, we complimented the score last week, and I think, again, they've done a good job this week, and I think a lot of these things are becoming more polished as the series gets older. I think we criticised some of the lack of subtlety in the music in some of the early episodes, and I think they are doing a really good job with that at this point in the series.
We see a very odd-looking man.
Yes.
He's throwing what looks like homemade grenades or bombs into a disused or unused quarry, and he's timing things.
For some reason, he reminded me of, I don't know if you'll know this reference, the fellow in Father Ted who sits by himself in his usual t-shirt, and he's always there when folk are driving past.
Would you class him as an oddball?
I wouldn't want to...
Disenfranchised from society, perhaps?
Well, I would say he's certainly a unique individual. I wouldn't want to say anything critical of the man, because it could be that he is, friendly when you get to know him.
Okay, in this case, Eddie Kane is the chap, and he is not friendly once you get to know him. So Eddie's messing around with these bombs in this quarry, and we see a second man arrive in a car.
Yes.
And he approaches Eddie, and he compliments Eddie on his craftsmanship, and he mentions that whilst the bombs are very impressive, it's unfortunate for the rats.
Yes, but who couldn't do without a fewer rats? Interestingly, we've got the return here of Jack Cassidy in his second stint as a killer.
Yeah.
And the same thing we saw with Robert Culp in The Most Crucial Game. To distinguish himself from his previous character, he's grown a moustache.
He has indeed, and he pulls off a moustache fantastically. I
think all men pull off moustaches impressively.
Your tash isn't quite up to speed at the moment, Ian, is it?
Well, it's attached to the rest of my beard, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not standalone. Interestingly, in this early point of the episode, Eddie is explaining what a 24-hour clock is.
Yeah.
Which is intriguing. Did they not use that commonly before the 1970s?
Who knows?
Maybe our audience does.
They can tell us.
Yes.
Yeah, so as you say, Greenleaf reminds him that the timing for something or other is vital, and Eddie refers to 22:30.
Yeah, military time.
10:30 at night. And we do get the feeling that this Eddie character is a little unhinged.
He's certainly unusual.
And the second man, who we come to learn to be Riley Greenleaf, suggests that Eddie may be losing his nerve. And Eddie proves him wrong by holding a lit grenade for a few moments longer than is necessary and safe.
It wasn't clear to me that... See, I thought he could have held on to it much, much longer than he did. He didn't really take it right to the limit, did he?
Greenleaf seemed to be impressed or worried by his lack of concern.
Yeah, he did. Certainly he seemed to have less comfort around the explosive devices, shall we say. He's also got very precise instructions for Eddie about how to carry out this crime. He wants him to kill the man with a single shot to the heart, no more. He wants to ensure that the fingerprints on the gun are not smudged, and he wants the key left at the murder scene. So
we understand immediately that a framing seems to be the order of the day.
Yes.
Eddie, as we know, being the type of character that we already have established he is, seems disappointed that he can't kill more than one person, or at least in a more ostentatious manner.
Yeah, he's got a thirst for the old violence there.
And we, in this scene, discover that Greenleaf is a publisher, and Eddie wants his book, a manual on bomb making, published. He's now a confirmed whack job. And Greenleaf appears rightly concerned and unsettled by this character. So
he's having to deal with someone perhaps he wouldn't ordinarily deal with in the course of his business.
Yes, but how to make these bombs, and a number of easy steps. He thinks that the world is crying out for this manual. People don't know how to make good killing machines, and He's going to resolve that with his book, which will become a bestseller.
No doubt.
Greenleaf gives him $1,000.
That's the advance on his book.
Yeah, an advance in inverted commas here.
Yeah,
Eddie seems delighted, about this advance.
he is.
And Eddie confirms that the hit is for that night and leaves. And we see Greenleaf, he damages his car, the
Yeah,
lock on his door.
He takes a chisel or a screwdriver or something to the lock in his car and also scrapes up the bodywork just next to that.
Obviously to make it look as if it's been tampered with in some way.
Yeah, jimmied in some way, yeah.
We next go to a restaurant party.
Yeah, I think we're led to believe that's the same evening, just later on in the day.
And we are introduced to a publisher named Gerry and Iain.
Yes,
And he's with the writer Alan
Mallory.
and Mallory's agent Eileen McRae.
Yes.
Mallory has agreed, and he has told Greenleaf that he will be leaving his publishing house for Gerry and Iain's.
Yes, at the end of his current contract in a few weeks' time.
And Mallory is a very successful author.
He seems to have a series of bestsellers to his name.
It's bestsellers that perhaps are not hugely critically successful, but financially very successful.
Yeah, we can all identify real-life examples of that sort of work.
Yes, so there's a very obvious real-life example we can discuss in a moment. But I thought it was interesting that the similarities between this and Ken Franklin and Jim Ferris's relationship.
Well, you wonder if they were maybe signed to Greenleaf's publisher.
Yes.
I mean, there can't be that many, or maybe to Neal. I mean, there can't be that many local publishers in that part of the town.
Yep. Alan Mallory was played by none other than Mickey Spillane.
A fairly familiar name, I think.
Yes, certainly in the back in the 70s and the 80s and before. He died in 2006, aged 88. A hugely successful pulp novelist, selling over 200 million copies of his books.
That's phenomenally prolific.
Crazy. I could only think of perhaps J.K. Rowling and the Bible and
Look at
Agatha Christie.
Stone, is it, that wrote 50 Shades of Grey? That's selling like hotcakes.
His most famous book was the very controversial in 1947, I, the Jury, which introduced us to a detective called Mike Hammer. Are you familiar with Mike Hammer?
Not particularly.
I think it's probably quite quaint looking back now, but at the time my understanding is that it was controversial because he broke the rules. He was quite maverick, perhaps happy enough to beat up or even kill a bad guy or a suspect rather than taking them through the correct procedure. Yeah. There's been dozens of novels with Mike Hammer as the lead. We've had radio shows and TV shows and things like that based on the character. He was so successful, Mickey Spillane, that in 1980 he apparently had 7 of the top 15 fiction books ever written in the States.
That's remarkable.
It really is, isn't it? Before that, apparently he wrote comics, so he's wrote stories for Captain Marvel, Captain America, Superman and Batman.
It's interesting that it goes across both Marvel and DC Comics, two separate institutions there.
It might be unfair of me to suggest that he was right to sort of stick to the writing. His performance in this episode wasn't fantastic, was it?
Was he a prolific actor?
No, he wasn't. I think he was in about 5 things.
He's essentially playing a version of himself here.
Yeah, which is often regarded as the hardest thing to do, people say, to come in and play yourself. But anyway, we're still in this restaurant. And Gerry and Iain mentions that he has invited some guests, and he's invited, in fact, Norman Mailer to the party. And he mentions this just as Greenleaf arrives, rather the worse for wear.
Or apparently, rather the worse for wear.
It looks that way. And he has a fantastic little drunken rant. We have a clip here.
With real flesh.
All right, cut it out. Don't you understand? I don't want a contract with you anymore. After 4 years of grinding out some of that garbage...
Garbage? Oh, no, sir. That was sex. And sex is our only mysticism in this world today of new illiterate...
Our old contract is up in 3 weeks, and that's it, Riley.
Your relationship does seem terminal, Riley.
He was writing obituaries for the Pasadena News when I found him, and I alone made him into a bestseller.
And now he would like to write better things. And for Mr. Neal's company.
Oh, you're kidding. My dear friend, if you do, you will die.
I'm sorry, Riley, but I think it's best if you keep your next appointment.
His new book belongs to me, and I've got him under contract.
All right, that'll be enough for now.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. He'll never write for you or anyone else, and I shall see to it.
It's an interesting quote because he says he'll never write for you or anyone else, and I shall see to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of gives a hint at who he might be framing for this. He's almost setting himself up as the killer, knowing that it's not going to be him that's there.
Yeah.
I mean, genius.
Mallory says that he is sick of writing garbage and he wants to leave to write better work. And again, I think this is a sort of nod to Jim Ferris and perhaps to his own writing in real life, where he might feel perhaps trapped in the genre that he found himself in.
I can't imagine he'd allow the character that he portrays to say something like that if it was something he didn't feel about his own writing. That would be quite tricky.
Yeah. So Greenleaf, he leaves, and we then see him pull up outside another restaurant and check his watch. So the drunken act appears to have been an act. We go to Mallory's office now, later in the evening, after this function.
That's him going back to write.
Yes. And we see him arrive at his desk. And then we've got some nice direction here, haven't we?
This is new. I mean, we've seen shot in shot. We had the sort of thing with the glasses and death lens at hand. We've had television screens that have had other pictures put on them. But this is the first time we've had simultaneous action, I think, displayed in this way on Columbo.
Yes. And I know that in the past we've thought that perhaps it was quite gimmicky and not necessary, but I think in this instance it works well, and it helps to condense what might have been a more extended episode by effectively what they've done here is show 3 shots at the same time, 3 scenes at the same time.
Yep, so you're not having to sit through them one after another.
Yep. So we see these 3 shots, one as Eddie, the bad guy, the killer, enters the office. See him entering the office, Miles' office.
Building, yeah.
And we see Greenleaf creating an alibi by acting obnoxiously and causing a disturbance in a bar.
Yeah, so interesting the approach that he's got, because he doesn't just do one thing. He creates a number of these instances where people might remember seeing him.
Yeah, sure. We then see Mallory wedge open his office door with a chair.
Right.
Which is quite important later in the episode.
It will prove important, yes.
And as he's doing this, we see Greenleaf being thrown out of another bar for drunkenness.
Yeah, he's quite obnoxious.
Yes, and this is where we got the clip from the top of the episode.
Yeah.
Again, we've said it before in Murder by the Book, but his performance, Jack Cassidy's performance, is a sort of snooty, horrible, but yet somehow charming bad guy is perfect, I think.
Yeah, no, he does a really good job with it. He seems to be fully in command of what the character is and how he expects the character to act. He's not working it out. He knows, he's confident with it, and it comes across in the performance.
Mallory then starts dictating his novel into a cassette recorder. Again, we had one of those last week in Double Exposure.
We did.
And we see Eddie creep up on him and shoot him dead.
Yeah, and you wonder, what did the recorder pick up?
And we don't see the shot, but we see the expression, and then we see the sound of the gunshot being replicated by Greenleaf's car as he deliberately reverses into another car to further his alibi.
Yeah, he sets up this accident.
And there's a couple in this car that he's reversed into.
He's quite fortunate that somebody was in the car park at that time in their car.
That's true. I suppose he could have just crashed it, made a scene, and people would have come running out anyway.
Sure.
But he's again really insulting to this couple.
Yeah. At one point, he's very, very rude to the woman in the car. Well, she's a bit nippy, as you would understand.
Yeah,
she's had her car crashed into. And her husband's not really standing up for himself.
And what does Greenleaf say?
Well, I think she says something along the lines of imploring her husband to call the police.
Because of the condition that he is in.
Yes, because he's drunk, and he says to her, "Madam, in your position, I'd call a plastic surgeon."
Yeah, it's great. Reminded me a bit of Churchill.
Cutting.
We then go back to Eddie leaving Mallory's office, and he leaves behind a key on the carpet beside the body.
Yeah.
We come back to the office later that evening. It's now a crime scene.
Columbo's there.
This is his introduction, and there are the usual sort of other cops and police photographers doing what they do.
And tropes as well. So the first experience we get with Columbo here is he's speaking to a security guard who has brought a coffee for Mallory.
Yeah.
And since he's dead, Columbo wants the coffee.
Yeah, he says he's really tired, and the reason for that was that he had been up all night with his wife, who wanted to watch Bette Davis movies.
At 4 a.m.
At 4 a.m. in the morning.
His wife must be an insomniac of some kind.
Yeah. But it's quite interesting because Peter Falk himself was nominated for an Oscar in 1961 for A Pocket Full of Miracles, where he played alongside Bette Davis.
It makes you wonder, maybe Columbo's wife wasn't involved in this at all. Maybe he just likes to sit up and watch that movie that he's in over and over again at 4 a.m.
Quite possibly.
That guy looks like me.
Yeah, he accepts cold coffee from the security guard.
He says he'll take anything at this point.
Yeah. And the guard informs him that he brings Mallory this coffee every night. Columbo finds the key, but he's unable to ID it. He can't find a lock that it fits.
Yeah.
And the guard tells him that he found the body, but he didn't touch anything. I think he says something along the lines of, "Do you think I'm daft, or do you think I'm mad? That's your job.
Yeah.
I've got enough troubles of my own." And the guard lets Columbo know that he enters with he's got his own pass key.
Right.
And then we see a young fellow arrive. He's there to pick up a manuscript, and apparently this is a manuscript collection service that happens every night.
Yeah, it's the middle of the night, but still.
Yeah, he turns up at the same time every night when Mallory, it looks like he's a nighttime writer.
Yeah. I mean, we're trying to work out roughly the time. So Columbo has been watching the movie since 4 a.m, so it's after 4 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not late enough that it would be a morning pickup.
No.
So we must be somewhere between 4 and 6 a.m, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Yeah, this chap called Walpert, every night he picks up the dictated notes.
Has them transcribed and provides the taped version.
The actor who played Walpert is fairly famous in his own right now, or fairly successful in his own right now.
Okay.
It was Jack Bender. He's a prolific director. Some of actually quite recently, he has become very successful. 38 episodes of Lost. He also directed episodes of The Sopranos, Alias, and Fame back in the 80s.
Okay.
And interestingly, he directed the David Cassidy story.
Interesting.
It was a TV movie. David Cassidy, obviously the son of
Jack Cassidy. We kind of talked on their family background in episode 1.
Yes, Murder by the Book. So if you want to hear more about Jack Cassidy, Murder by the Book, our first episode is where you will get that.
Just as polished as the recent episodes. We started off on a great foot.
Not quite.
The next big moment is the gun has been found, and Columbo is perplexed. And
before that, Ian, I think Columbo listens to...
So yes, he listens to the tape because the transcription guy has alerted him to the fact that this tape exists.
And fortunately, it captured the murder.
It did.
And he hears a door slam shut, and this seems to confuse or make him think. He's not sure why that... Yeah, something bothers him.
It doesn't quite work.
It's a marble in his mind, in his brain. So we then have another cop. He enters, and as you rightly say, they have found the murder weapon.
Yeah, Columbo, like I say, is a bit incredulous because it's far too easy. Why was it lying there?
Yeah, I think.
Why would that happen?
Mm-hmm. And as the cop leaves, Columbo understands something.
Yeah, he sees the windows open, and he goes to speak to the other policeman, but then he changes his mind and decides to think it over some more.
Mm-hmm. And I think Columbo has worked out what's happened here. He doesn't explain it in this scene, but he has understood that Mallory opens the window and the door in order to create a cross breeze to cool down the office.
Makes sense.
we have a quick scene next in the park.
I like this one.
What happens?
They've got Riley Greenleaf sleeping in his car, and the police show up. And there's a little bit of an altercation.
And he's still quite cheeky, isn't he?
He refuses to get out of the car, so they're going to have to drag him.
It's brilliant.
And they bring over a second officer to help with that.
Yeah. So we go to the police station, LAPD, and this is I think the third episode where we've been inside Columbo's workplace.
There's not been that many, anyway.
And Greenleaf and a lawyer are brought in to see Columbo, and they assume, or were led to believe that Greenleaf assumes, that it is in relation to this drink driving offence.
Yeah, of course he'll know fine well it's not.
No. And Columbo plays the recording and asks Greenleaf if he can ID the voice.
Yes, he does.
As Mallory.
Yes.
He goes to leave, but he stops when he hears the shot. And Columbo confirms that yes, Mallory was shot dead. Columbo asks him where he was at 10:30 the previous evening.
Yeah, and he doesn't have an alibi, he can't remember.
No. But he did admit that he did speak to Mallory that evening.
Yeah.
So Columbo shows him the key that they found, and he tells Greenleaf that he thinks it's Greenleaf's key.
It must be.
Greenleaf doesn't argue. He's not interested in trying to deny this.
Nope.
And he then confirms that he also owns a gun, but he doesn't know what
make
type
or model or anything yet.
It's not really his thing. And we see Greenleaf seem to accept or understand that Columbo is suspicious of him, and the lawyer tells Greenleaf to say nothing.
I don't think Columbo's fixated on him at this point.
No?
I think there's questions to answer. I mean, if he thinks it's his key, so there's going to be questions to answer. I don't think Columbo's necessarily certain it's him.
Not certain, but you don't think that this would be the primary suspect? The gun, the motive, the key.
Well, yes, but then you've then got the problem with the gun being found too easily, the key not fitting. Okay. I suspect Columbo's still got things to think about.
Obviously. We go to Eileen McRae's apartment, and Eileen is the agent, or was the agent, of Alan Mallory.
Yeah, Columbo wants some information from her.
And she explains the relationship, or the soon-to-be ex-relationship between Greenleaf and Mallory.
Yeah.
So he was under contract for only 3 more weeks, but he hadn't told Greenleaf anything about this new book that he was working on. Now, here's a point. I don't really know how the publishing industry works.
Well, I was going to say, this seems a very strange basis for a contract.
Yeah, you don't have a contract based on time.
I wouldn't have thought so.
It's a 2, 3, 4 book deal, just like the music industry. You don't sign up for 5 years, you sign up for 5 albums or whatever.
Unless perhaps Greenleaf's agency worked by time.
And you can't also just write books on your own time. Don't tell your publisher about it.
It does seem a little bit unusual.
Anyway, she says that Greenleaf knew nothing about this new book.
Yeah.
That there's no way Mallory would have told him anything about it. And then she recounts the threats.
Yeah, from the bar we heard, or we talked
night.
about earlier on, yeah.
So on the surface, at this point, Columbo must be thinking, okay, this is going to be one of my easier cases here.
Seems fairly cut and dried.
But maybe,
except for the little niggles.
So maybe this is actually the first clue, isn't it? It's too cut and dried, and Columbo doesn't like things that are too obvious.
No. I mean, he'd take a video of the killing if he could find one.
We then move to Greenleaf's house.
Yeah,
and
he's inside.
He's inside looking out, and he notices Columbo coming in.
Yeah, and examining the car.
Yeah, and this is what he wants. So it's all falling, his plan's falling into place.
As so often seems to happen.
And inside, Greenleaf is talking to his lawyer. And even to his lawyer, he is suggesting that, I may be guilty of this. I may have killed Mallory last night.
Yeah, I like the lawyer. I think he does a good job. I think he should have been in it more near the end. But yeah.
Yeah. The lawyer was played by Alan Fudge. Nice name.
Great name.
Sweet name. He died in 2011, aged 67. This was his first of 3 Columbo episodes. He was also in Matlock, A Lot of Murder, She Wrote, LA Law, Seventh Heaven, Edward Scissorhands, and The Natural.
We had someone a couple of weeks ago from Edward Scissorhands.
Vincent Price.
There you go.
Columbo is let into the room by a butler.
Yes.
Greenleaf apologises for his manner earlier
Yeah,
in
he's
the
sobered
day.
up now and everything. He's not a hangover anymore.
Columbo confirms to him that they traced the murder weapon back to Greenleaf himself. And at this point, again, Greenleaf appears to be happy to accept that he is guilty. Now, this is, I suppose, is a slight flaw in his plan, isn't it? You'd expect, even if you were guilty, but especially if you couldn't remember doing it, that you would still deny it as much as possible. You would say that, no, it's not my personality. There's no way I would have killed him. Couldn't have done it. You wouldn't be looking to accept it so readily, I wouldn't have thought. And I think that's probably one of his first flaws.
Sure, possibly. Well, that's clearly deliberate.
Yes, but I think he's misunderstood the psychology of how you should act.
Perhaps. They all do.
Hmm.
He actually physically suggests it might have been him. He doesn't just accept it, he brings it up.
Yeah.
It's his suggestion. And
that's what I'm saying. Columbo must have been suspicious at that. You wouldn't do that.
yeah.
The lawyer tries to get Greenleaf to stay silent and shut up, but Greenleaf tells him he will do as he pleases. He's a
Pays him
paid
enough money, yeah.
Yeah, he's the boss.
Columbo wants to know if Greenleaf can remember taking the gun out of the car.
Mm-hmm.
And Columbo seems a bit baffled because he can't put the pieces together just the way he wants them at this point.
Yeah.
But they go out and have a look at the car and they notice that it's been jimmied and the gun could have been stolen that way. But then Greenleaf's reaction is not authentic to me.
Well, he's now going to sort of phase 2 of this grand scheme of his.
Yeah.
So he now pretends to understand that perhaps someone has broken into my car, stolen my gun.
Yeah, and he suddenly recalls that he kept the key in there.
Yeah.
That's convenient.
Yeah, he very quickly moves from accepting guilt to this must be what happened here, and this must be a suspicion, a reason for Columbo not to buy into it. It's too obvious.
Yeah. It's interesting actually because they look at the damage to the car that was done in the accident and they almost exchange family tropes.
Yep.
They've both got a family member that worked in a body shop.
Yeah, it's a nice bit of humour here, isn't it? So Columbo offers his services, or the services of his wife's cousin in the valley, who could help with the bodywork. And Greenleaf responds that he has a cousin in Beverly Hills who does all of his work. So again, there's this identifier of the relationship or the status. So Columbo's talking about the valley, and Greenleaf, the killer here, is talking about Beverly Hills. So putting Columbo in his place.
Yeah, that's right. And then there's a phone call comes in.
Yes, the lawyer takes a call from the insurance company.
Well, Greenleaf asks the lawyer to take the call and insists that he takes a message rather than just records that it was a call.
And the call seems to provide Greenleaf with an alibi.
The lawyer's ecstatic and he's rubbing it in Columbo's face.
Apparently, Greenleaf was involved in a car accident at 10:30 the previous night and then spent the rest of the evening in the drunk tank.
Yeah.
But he makes a mistake because he tells Columbo...
Yeah, he refers to it in plural to the people who were in the other car.
That's it. He says, thankful to those people for reporting the accident. Before Columbo brings that up, he mentions that he's a little puzzled as to why only Greenleaf's prints were on the gun.
Yeah.
So this is phase 3, I think, being pulled into play by Greenleaf.
Yeah, so now we're in a situation where all the evidence points to him, but he can't have been there.
Yeah, and it's a framing, so it's not just someone else has done it. So
Yeah.
phase 1 was, apparently it was Greenleaf. Phase 2 was, Greenleaf has an alibi and it was someone else who stole his gun and his keys and he did it. And phase 3 is now,
Someone's tried to frame
it's a
Greenleaf
framing
for
job,
this.
yeah. That's why I was saying at the start, it's a fairly intricate plot, this.
Just before Columbo leaves, so the lawyer has an epic rant, and I think we've got a clip of it.
Let's play it.
Lieutenant Columbo.
Sir?
I suppose you realize what you almost did?
Sir?
You were going to arrest him, weren't you?
Well, it did seem to me that he was somehow involved.
Seen. When are you police going to realize that it takes more than circumstantial evidence to convict a man of a crime?
David.
Evidence. Find the evidence, Lieutenant. Quit jumping to conclusions and quit trying to take the easy way.
It's a question we might have asked many times in our verdict roundups at the end of each season.
Yeah. In fairness, Columbo takes it with, in good grace. He seems to accept his reprimand.
He does.
He nods, and he's about to walk away. But
he's still thinking over that slip that Greenleaf made, so he verifies with the lawyer how many people were in the other car, and it's confirmed to be plural, and he raises it directly with Greenleaf at that point.
But the lawyer answers and said that it must be his subconscious, and he's starting to remember what might have happened. The haze maybe starting to lift.
I think Columbo's dubious.
Yeah, and I think we see Greenleaf being a little bit unhappy, uncomfortable with this, and realises that there may be a slight problem here.
Yeah. Because he's made a mistake.
From there we go to Greenleaf's office.
We've got a very brief scene in a locksmith's where Columbo goes to get a key made of some kind.
We don't at this point know what's happening, but we don't hear the conversation, but we see Columbo talk to a locksmith. And then we see that Greenleaf is in his office, and he's informed by his secretary that a strange man is wandering around the editorial suite.
We know immediately who that's going to be.
And we see Columbo enjoying watching a photo shoot. He does like to, he's got a certain voyeuristic...
That's the word I was thinking of, yeah. He likes to know what's going on, he likes to find out about things.
Question here is that doesn't really make much of a difference, but I doubt whether the publishers of books actually have within their buildings, I don't think they take the photographs either. A publishing house would outsource this, would go somewhere else. I don't think they've got their own photographers on hand, because it's not something you do every day.
Yeah.
You would just outsource that to a studio somewhere.
Maybe they've just allowed them to use their facility rather than
seems a bit
organised.
Yeah, possibly. I think that's just to make it easier for the show, to be honest.
Yeah, it's not like we needed to have that scene anyway, or that moment anyway. Anyway, Columbo tells Greenleaf that the accident checks out.
Yes, but I mean, Greenleaf isn't pleased to see him.
Not initially.
He's not pleased, but he's happy when Columbo confirms his alibi.
Yeah.
But is less pleased to discover that he apparently is being framed. So that's Columbo's apparent suspicion.
Well, Columbo says if it hadn't been for the accident, things were looking bad for Greenleaf.
Very bad.
And now his working theory, essentially, is that somebody has tried to frame Greenleaf.
But I think we know, when he says that, I think he's in the elevator at that point.
Yeah.
He says it and he just stares at him for a few moments. And I think we can understand from the way he says it and doesn't say anything that he knows how convenient this alibi is.
Yeah, but I think he does genuinely believe that it's a framing, or at least he's working on that as a real theory. It's not. He's not setting up Greenleaf at this point.
Yep. So we then have another sort of Columbo trope whereby he goes off at a sort of tangent in order to disarm, and he tells Greenleaf that he may want to, or may consider writing a book. Not a big book though. It's a small book.
Case files.
And he mentions just like the sergeant down the station. And that's quite interesting.
You think?
Yes, I think that may be based on a Joseph Wombo.
Okay.
He was a real life cop. He was a detective sergeant in the LAPD in the 70s.
Right.
And he is now, still is, a best-selling author of fiction and non-fiction police novels.
When did his first one come out?
1971, The New Centurions.
That fits in quite nicely.
It does. So I think that might be a nod to that chap himself, a cop turned author, successful author.
Well, there you go.
And Greenleaf sort of, when Columbo tells him that he wants to be an author, sort of dismisses him and suggests that it takes a certain skill.
Yeah, there's skill in being an author. You can't just pick up a pen and write a bestseller.
What else do we learn in this scene, Ian?
Well, Columbo still wants to talk about the issue of access to the building, about how the key had been changed in the lock, and that the key that was found in the office could not have been used to enter the room. Greenleaf misses a trick here because he feels he has to react and respond to this new information instead of just appreciating that a hole in his recollection or knowledge is a good thing.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, Columbo drops a bombshell here.
Yeah.
He tells him that the lock on Mallory's office...
Mallory had changed it.
Had changed it 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that key did not fit. So that key is effectively useless. It
Yes.
wouldn't have opened up anything.
But you think about it from Greenleaf's perspective, he knows now that key didn't work.
Mhm.
He also knows that Eddie did get in and did kill Mallory. So that's almost like a bonus for him, but he doesn't see it that way. Because him not knowing that adds plausibility to his position.
Yeah.
He wouldn't know it if he wasn't involved. So why does he have to then
He falls into the trap, doesn't
intervene?
he?
He has to. Yeah, he falls into the I need to be in control trap. I need to know so that I can pretend I don't know.
And he tries to offer a solution, which is...
He suggests maybe Mallory recognised the killer. Maybe it was somebody that was known to him, and he would have let him in.
But Columbo can immediately dismiss that because
It's not on the tape.
It's not on the tape. So we're starting to get into situations where Greenleaf should not be going.
He doesn't need to. This is the thing. This is the big flaw in him. It's this whole urge for control. He should have immediately worked out that it's to his benefit. The less he knows, the better.
Yeah. Also, another very important fact we find out in this scene is the insurance policy.
Right, yes, there's $1 million. I talked about this in the summary.
Yeah.
There's $1 million insurance
So
policy.
it's confirmed that, yes, there is $1 million on this. Greenleaf says that he didn't even know that, forgot all about it. Columbo says, well, the policy was only renewed recently, but Greenleaf has a plausible explanation.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable. He would have had that handled by somebody else.
Yeah, he doesn't deal with the day-to-day signing policies, and that's what the accountant's
Once
paid for.
the policy's taken out, yeah, somebody else is in control of that.
We're about to leave this scene.
Yeah.
Columbo tells him there must have been another new key cut to allow Eddie to get in.
Yeah.
And if he can find...
Whoever has that key,
yeah, he'll
that's it.
find the killer. And Greenleaf sort of shakes his hand as he ushers him out and says he doesn't envy him, but wishes him luck. And I think that was a scene from Murder by the Book as well.
Right.
I think that, if you remember, Columbo's talking about going through the list of potential mafia
Yes, hitmen,
and he says, "Oh, I wish you all the luck, I don't envy you." I think that's a nod to that scene.
It's quite good. After Columbo goes, Greenleaf puts a call into Eddie Kane.
He arranges to meet him at 10 p.m. that evening.
2200 hours.
Out. And then we see Greenleaf. He takes a bottle of champagne and then some drugs and a syringe from his drawer.
Presumably he's going to inject this poison into the champagne.
Mm-hmm. That's another nod, I think, to Murder by the Book.
The champagne is shared with Little Sanka.
Yeah, a champagne bottle was involved in the murder.
Yeah, that's quite clever.
Second murder of the...
It's a subtle reference.
Yeah.
He does bring the champagne out of the same sort of brown paper bag.
Mm-hmm. And then we hear him call some sort of dodgy character.
This is a bizarre moment. He wants a key made urgently for a lock that he doesn't.
And he's asking, so he's calling someone in the underworld, some, like I said, dubious character who can get these things done. Yeah. See, this is a risk because you're now...
This is a mistake. He doesn't need to do this.
He doesn't. He's just trying to... He thinks he's firming up. He can really... Pin
it right on Eddie.
Yeah. So he's trying to overdo it here.
There's no need.
Nope.
But what I want to know is, was he planning to do this, kill Eddie anyway? Because
yes, I think
he's already got the champagne and the drugs.
Yeah.
So regardless of what Columbo was saying, presumably he was going to go ahead with this plan.
Yeah, I think he couldn't. Eddie's a whack job.
Yeah, you can't trust him to keep this quiet.
No, but he's definitely going to kill Eddie because Eddie expects his book to be published.
Yeah.
There's no chance that's happening. So if it doesn't publish his book, then Eddie's talking. And even if it does publish his book, Eddie's not the type of guy you want around with that information.
Sure.
But the problem is that he's now involving third and fourth parties here. This locksmith to duplicate keys, it's messy, isn't it?
It doesn't make sense at all because he must know Eddie got in. He got in. Why do you need to give him this key?
Yeah.
I mean, surely he can't think, Eddie must have had a key.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make any sense.
No. That's the thing, isn't it? If it was a perfect murder, Columbo wouldn't be able to solve it.
Yeah, that's true.
We're off to Eddie's house now. And we see Greenleaf arrive wearing gloves. Never a good sign, is it, when someone like that turns up?
He's wearing 2 lots of gloves, actually. We'll come to that.
So he has his champagne, and Eddie boasts about his drawings for bouncing Betties. These landmines are...
he's got these anti-personnel landmines that take people's legs off.
He's delighted by that, isn't he? He's really excited by it.
It's horrible.
And you can see Greenleaf really... He understands how deranged Eddie is. I think he really is worried. He wants to kill Eddie ASAP because he's a...
He's out of there, I think, as well. Yeah.
He's a scary character. And then he offers him this champagne to celebrate this new bomb that you've invented or whatever.
Eddie's only too happy to take some.
Yeah, he pulls out these 2 beakers, chemistry beakers, test tube type
It
containers.
certainly wasn't champagne flutes
You can see
like you and I have in our houses.
right now. You can see Greenleaf really sort of look down in disgust at what he's having to
Yeah.
drink from.
But he's not going to drink from it.
Of course he's not. And we see that they toast the drink with bombs away.
Yes. And Eddie's not getting any reason to be suspicious of Riley. Well, you would think he'd be paranoid enough to be suspicious of Riley.
But let's say he's deranged.
Yeah,
It's not
consistent.
No.
But anyway, he doesn't watch closely, so Riley's not getting any difficulty concealing the fact he hasn't drunk any of the champagne.
And he confirms to Greenleaf that Mallory's door was open when he arrived to kill him.
Yeah.
Just before he collapses from the drugged alcohol.
So now there's no need to give him that key.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It doesn't even make sense in the narrative.
No.
How would he have had the key? Why would he have had the key?
Yeah.
It's almost as if he's made this leap that makes no sense.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the flaws
in his plan, not in the episode, because I think it works quite nicely. Because it just
yeah.
shows that this guy isn't quite as on top of things as he needs to be.
Did you like the performance of Eddie Kane?
Yeah, I mean, I do hope it's not like Spillane, someone just playing themselves, because that would be concerning. But it was a very good, very convincing performance.
Yeah. It was played by John Davis Chandler. He's not done a massive amount of sort of high profile work, but he's a sort of jobbing actor. Died in 2010, aged 75. Most famously known for his performances in Ride the High Country, The Outlaw Josey Wales with it's one of my with Clint Eastwood, one of my favourite westerns. The Adventures in Babysitting, a classic 80s with Elizabeth Shue.
Okay.
And his last performance was in Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Who did he play in Star Trek Deep Space Nine?
Don't know. You can find out. Do you want me to find out? Through the wonders of technology, I found this out for you, Ian. He apparently played Flith.
Flith? Yeah. Oh, he was in the episode Honour Among Thieves.
Ah, okay. Not watched it myself, but I think in just about all of his roles, he played a odd, weirdo type character. I think he had the physical sort of characteristics for that.
Interestingly, no appearance for Mickey Golden this week.
Nope. Or Mike Lally.
Shocker.
Or any of the other regulars. But we do maintain the Star Trek connection.
That's it. We did have a similar issue to last week with a lack of female involvement in the episode, but I thought that Eileen McRae was a good character.
She was.
If barely used.
Yeah. When you've got Jack Cassidy, just like Robert Culp, you want to spend a lot of time with them, don't you?
I think that's the key thing. When you've got such a charismatic lead who can dominate the screen and put in such a good performance, you want to give them the chance to do that.
Yeah. So with Eddie on the floor, unconscious, perhaps dead, but certainly unconscious.
Yeah.
We see Greenleaf take out the new key that he has had made.
He adds it to a keyring.
Eddie's keyring on his body or on his possession.
And then he looks into Eddie's notebook, his address book.
And we see that Greenleaf is already in there.
Which is what he wants to see.
He then types a cover note.
Yes. I can tell you exactly what it said because I hovered on it momentarily.
So did I. And it's quite ridiculous, childlike.
I think it's designed to sound like a deranged person. It's quite cleverly done.
Go for it.
It says, "Dear Mr. Greenleaf, enclosed you will find a brief outline for a novel I plan to write entitled 60 Miles to Saigon. I think this is an excellent kind of story and one that will sell a lot of copies. If you agree, why don't we meet and discuss some of the details, such as how much are you going to pay me to write this? Yours truly."
How could any publisher refuse, "Oh, please come into the office for a meeting tomorrow if you can"?
Yeah, I think this is a great idea, what Greenleaf's doing here, but I think he doesn't execute it perfectly because he makes it too perfect.
Okay, so just explain what he is doing here.
So what he's doing here is he's taking Mallory's... I mean, we don't know that he knows Mallory's working on this novel, but he does, and we'll come to that. But he takes basically the plotted outline of Mallory's current novel and the title of Mallory's current novel and attributes it to Eddie. And sets up a situation where Eddie 9 months ago submitted this manuscript.
Yeah.
And the suggestion then is that Greenleaf took the idea and gave it to Mallory, who then wrote a novel based on it.
as you mentioned, this is another, he's overcomplicated the situation. This is another flaw, isn't it? This is the final flaw, actually, we'll get to.
He has to give a motive. So this is him setting up the motive for Eddie to kill Alan Malley and frame Riley Greenleaf. So there's a reason for it, but I think the execution isn't right. He does it too perfectly. He didn't need to give them that perfect outline. You could give them the bare bones of the story. You could give them a different title in the story. You could give them half a story or an unfinished story or just he didn't need to have the fully plotted manuscript there.
Yeah.
That probably was too much.
Okay. So he's about to leave and we see him pick up Eddie's real novel or manuscript or outline, and it's called How to Blow Up Anything in 10 Easy Lessons. Yeah.
This is the tricky thing for me. It does look like he's about to leave. So perhaps he didn't intend to blow anything up, and he then reads this and finds out how to make the bomb and does it.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, it leaves a lot of other things up to chance, because what if the manuscript was destroyed? What if the address book was destroyed in an explosion?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
There's a few different things that don't quite tie in if it wasn't part of his original plan.
Yeah, why was there not more damage done? How would he know how... And again, this guy's got other bomb-making devices and stuff lying around, so you can't be sure that if you set off an explosion that the whole place isn't... Who knows what this guy's got stored in the room?
Well, this is the thing, and we don't know what he poisoned them with, but if he wasn't going to blow them up, presumably an autopsy would be done and they'd find the poison. So, how was that going to work?
Yeah.
So maybe he wasn't planning to leave, but then the way it was portrayed, it definitely looked like he was, and it definitely looked like he happened upon this and then made the bomb later.
Yeah. So, we see him, he drives away and then he stops a few hundred yards away and we hear
witness the explosion.
And, this is quite, to use one of your words, it's quite chancy, isn't it, really?
It's not really my word, it's Columbo's word.
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, he's stopping to hear this. There could have been people around. Yeah, it's a bit messy.
Well, that's going to draw attention, isn't it? I suppose the attention then's going in a different direction, but
he screeches away.
Yeah.
So he's leaving tire prints and marks, and it's just messy.
It's not smoothly done.
From there we go to, the next day, we go to a restaurant called Chasen's.
Well, I've got the Columbo's car trope.
He
drives up to the restaurant and the valet is very dismissive of him.
He's not sure what to make of this car, what he wants Columbo to do with it. Columbo asks where he can park it, and he then asks for a ticket, and the valet says that you don't need a ticket, I'll remember whose car this is.
Columbo's very unassuming. All Columbo expects is to be treated like anybody else. And for various reasons he's not treated. And he's not treated like just anybody else. And it's not, and even though it keeps happening, he still just expects to be treated like anybody else the next time he goes somewhere. Which is endearing.
It certainly is. You have a sympathy or an empathy towards Columbo, the underdog.
Yeah, he's not expecting special treatment, he just wants fair, equal treatment.
Although I think that he plays upon that. I'm sure he could afford a better car and to repair it and to look after himself a little bit more. So, it's not that that's all he can afford or he doesn't know any better. He's using this and he's quite happy for people to underestimate him.
Sure.
So we see Eileen McRae, and she is lunching with Geoffrey Neal, the rival publisher.
Right.
And Columbo joins him and is offered a menu.
Yeah.
And again, it's another type of trope, isn't it? We see him sort of being intimidated by the big menu, I think that's what he calls
Foreign
it.
words.
Yeah. And they're quite amused at his request for chili with ketchup and crackers.
Yeah. And the restaurant staff don't seem very impressed by that request either.
But have some nice trivia here if you want to.
Sure.
If you want me to oblige. So the restaurant is called Chasen's, and it's a real restaurant in LA. It's located near Beverly Hills, and it was a restaurant frequented by the great, the good, and the infamous of Hollywood.
Okay.
So
Such as
Marilyn Monroe, Cary Grant, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Nixon, Reagan, Sinatra, Hope, Temple, Gable, Cagney, Nicholson, Gibson, Walt Disney.
Hopefully all at once. That would be an incredible party.
One party, yeah. Gibson get kicked out.
Sure. Probably by Sinatra and his mates.
The thing is that they're all sort of dismayed, or the restaurant staff are dismayed by Columbo ordering chili in this fine establishment.
Yes. Doesn't fit.
Nope. But in real life, Chasen's was renowned for its wonderful chili.
Well, there you go. Perhaps a nod.
Yes, it was a chili establishment. It was opened or created, owned by a Dave Chasen, who was a comedian, and it was opened in 1936 on the advice from Frank Capra, and it closed on the 1st of April 1995.
Why?
Business was bad.
Okay.
I think someone bought it and tried to reopen it and change it, but by that point the stars were going other places and it had lost its
luster,
pride,
perhaps, yeah.
And so, closed down.
Oh dear. Now, I like this scene because for me, this is possibly the first time we've really seen Columbo interrogating other people as suspects.
He's certainly making them feel as if they might be suspects.
Yeah, and we've not really had that in the previous episodes.
No.
He seems to zero in on the actual killer. But in this episode, you definitely got the feeling that he considers these people as possible suspects, and he treats them the way that he treats his usual suspects.
Yeah. So Jeffrey Neal confirms that he is in the process of trying to get Mallory's novel released from the solicitors or the estate here.
Yeah, he thinks it belongs to him.
Yeah, he thinks it will be a bestseller, and that also nobody else has read it. However, Eileen had discussed the ending with him, with Mallory.
This is absurd.
And offered some advice.
Yes.
And the advice was this, okay, so in the original book, apparently, the star, or the
hero,
the protagonist had been killed off by Mallory at the end of the novel. Now, we find out that Universal had bought the rights for Rock Hudson to star in a movie version of this.
Yes, you don't kill off Rock Hudson.
You certainly don't, not back in the 70s, you don't kill off your star. So Eileen had suggested a rewrite where the hero leaves the villagers and heads off to a monastery.
That's terrible. It's a really terrible idea.
But again, some more sort of nice insider nods and trivia here. We have Universal buying the rights.
Yep.
Obviously, Universal produced Columbo.
Okay.
We had Rock Hudson mentioned. Now, Rock Hudson, if you remember, was the star of Macmillan and Wife, which was part of the Murder Mystery Hour.
Ah.
So we've got Universal, Rock Hudson,
yep,
and Macmillan and Wife mentioned there.
Nice connections.
Mm-hmm.
A call comes in for Columbo at the restaurant.
Yes, but before that, Columbo asks, blatantly and to their faces, who would want to frame Greenleaf? And as you mentioned correctly, they think that they are perhaps under suspicion.
Yeah, I mean, Neal accepts that he might want to do that, but points out that he wouldn't do it by killing the author who's about to sign for his publishing house.
And we see Columbo, I think, acknowledge that this
Makes
would be
sense,
it doesn't make any sense. And then, as you say, he receives a call, and it's something urgent. He's told something urgent.
Yes. I presume he's being told about Eddie Kane at this point. That'll be the news that he's getting, because he's heading that way shortly. But before he goes, he's insisted on paying the cheque for his own meal.
Yep, when you're on, this is police duty, and when you're on police duty, the police pay for it, apparently.
Yeah, and even though the police are paying for it, he still seems concerned at the price.
So he gets the cheque, and he finds out it's for $6.
He's outraged.
Yeah, chili and iced tea for $6. That's a scandal.
But fortunately, there's been a mistake.
There has been.
The waiter will correct the bill at this point.
He amends the bill, and what happens?
It's now $6.75 because he forgot the iced tea.
Fantastic.
Columbo's stunned.
Yeah, like I say, he's not paying for it, but I think he's just unhappy with the prices in general.
I think he's paying for it in the first instance. He'll probably claim it on his expenses.
Mm-hmm. So he's out of pocket for a while. Maybe it's a 30-day turnaround.
I mean, $6, that's quite a lot.
Well, okay, we remember last week you could see a movie for $1.
Yeah, so that's probably...
So we're talking 6 or 7 times the amount of a movie.
So
not a full price movie, because it wasn't Friday or Saturday, but let's say it was a half price movie. So today, we have here, what's a movie if you pay...
Well, we're going to talk British money or American money?
Let's talk British money. So we have a movie...
£8, I would say.
More than that, I'd say.
Even more.
Yeah.
But for a special occasion, you might get in for 8 or 7 or 8 quid.
Okay. So let's say it's £4 or £5 if you go through the day.
Okay, so say £5. 6 times that, 30 quid.
For some chili and a nice tea. Yes, a lot.
Yeah, I think, 35 maybe-ish if you add in the...
Yeah, I hope that be in dollars then.
$50-ish.
Yeah. Yeah, an awful lot, isn't it?
Well, I would say that's an expensive bowl of chili. Perhaps the most expensive in the series. We will find out.
Not the usual sort of roadside diner prices I wouldn't have thought at Parrish or whoever.
You can imagine though Columbo telling the story about the time he ate the $50 chili.
I wonder if his boss would actually sanction that. I mean, there must be some sort of limits and controls. You can't just
unlimited expenses.
Yeah,
it's justify that one.
From the restaurant, we go back to Eddie's house.
Yeah, they're investigating this death now. There's also been the explosion. They found Greenleaf's name in the address book.
Well, Columbo is told by another sort of uniformed cop or another cop that Eddie appears to have blown himself up rigging a bomb.
Yeah.
He was a weirdo writing a book about bomb making.
That's it. That's not all he was writing, because
No.
they've also found the manuscript for 60 Miles to Saigon.
But, the reason why it's explained, which is a nice touch. So the cop called Columbo because Greenleaf's name was in Eddie's book, and they mentioned that they previously thought there was a case against Greenleaf.
Right.
So we know before this point, Columbo has expressed publicly or within to his colleagues that he is suspicious of Greenleaf.
There you go. Well, I think that was obvious though, because it was Greenleaf's gun,
Mhm.
and it was Greenleaf's key, and it was the guy that Greenleaf had a grudge against that was killed. So it's logical, even up to the point where the insurance claim was verified. They probably had a thought about Greenleaf.
Then we have another sort of funny little quip here, where Columbo offers the other cop some advice.
Yeah.
Tells him to be careful where he eats chili.
Yes, he doesn't want to end up paying too much.
So then what happens? Columbo finds an outline for this Saigon novel.
This is fairly big news for Columbo. This is tying it to the other case. I wouldn't say, it's not that he's baffled, but he's excited about it. He's intrigued by it. I don't think he understands immediately how it fits in, but he knows that this is a new lead. This is going to be something to investigate.
We have a clip here.
You want some advice? Be careful where you eat chili.
Why, too hot?
Too high. Wait a minute.
What?
I'll be a son of a gun. I can't believe it. 60 miles to Saigon. I'll write for a novel.
You think that ties Eddie Kane with the Mallory murder?
Yeah. Could be.
Lieutenant, you sure are lucky sometimes.
That's me. I'm lucky.
You can see Columbo putting the pieces together slowly. He then asks, did you by chance find the keychain for this gentleman?
He agrees Columbo agrees that he is lucky. But I'm not sure if he means he's lucky, too lucky, or it's too obvious that I've been lucky here.
Yeah, or not lucky in the way this guy thinks he has been.
I've been presented with this information, so certainly I'm lucky.
Columbo knows that he's had the locks, we're going to come to this, had the locks changed again on Mallory's office. So he knows if he finds this key, something's up.
Yeah. Did you mention there, so that, they confirmed that they find this key on...
Well, yeah, I just mentioned that, but the reason that there is an issue here is because Columbo knows that if he finds the key, it's Greenleaf, because he's only told Greenleaf about the key issue. Again, we're going to come to this later on, but I have to talk about it now because it's relevant now. As soon as they find the keychain with the unidentified key, I think Columbo has, alarm bells ringing, or at least klaxons going. He knows exactly what's happened here.
From Eddie's house, we travel to a private cinema. I wasn't sure where this was.
I used the phrase private cinema. I assume it's in Greenleaf's, either his home or his office. And
he's enjoying a movie with what sounds to be a fairly risque soundtrack. I don't see what he's watching, but...
I didn't catch that.
He seems to be having a pleasurable time on his own.
Perhaps.
Columbo arrives and he's telling him that they have found the killer of Mallory and that he was an Eddie Kane, who was subsequently killed by a homemade bomb last night.
Yeah.
Greenleaf initially denies knowing Kane.
Columbo seems to get a wee bit upset here, I think. A wee bit of emotion comes in.
Yeah, he insists that he has heard of him, as he found his name in Eddie's book, and also a letter that had been addressed to him.
There you go.
And Greenleaf concedes he does know of him. Obviously this is part of his grand plan.
Yeah, this is his whole elaborate charade.
Yeah.
He goes to his safe behind a painting in the wall and retrieves his copy of the manuscript and tells Columbo what's happened.
So explain again, just confirm, or just sum up what is apparently meant to have happened here.
Greenleaf's story is that 9 months ago, Eddie Kane sent him this manuscript, and he realised it was a good story, but that Eddie Kane wasn't the man to write the story. He offered him money for the manuscript, and Kane went bananas. So he then asked Alan Mallory to write the story, having tried to do it above board. And this is why Kane got upset. And Columbo's response is, that wasn't exactly an ethical thing that you did.
Yeah, it's understandable that if this was the case, Eddie would be upset.
Yeah, and I think Greenleaf accepts that because obviously that's exactly what he was meaning.
Yeah, it supports his...
His whole plan is to paint himself as not squeaky clean here. He has motive, he has opportunity, but he just didn't do it.
Yeah, an unethical character, but not a murderer.
Yes.
So, just to confirm, what is being implied here is that Eddie, in a fit of rage and anger, killed Mallory and tried to frame Greenleaf for the murder in order to kill two birds with one stone in an act of revenge.
That's it.
For stealing his work.
Because he was so angry. Columbo insists on taking away the manuscript with the story in it, which I presume he's then going to check off against what he understands to be McCrae's version of the ending. Yeah,
but also, Greenleaf produces the note from Eddie, and Columbo takes it to check that it was in fact typed on...
Well, he says this is why he's taking it, is to check it was on that typewriter and so on. But I think what he's doing here is he's been told Eileen McCrae changed the ending. He's maybe wanting to check what versions have we got here.
No, he doesn't find it out until he's at Eileen's.
He heard that at the restaurant. Eileen told him at the restaurant, so he already knows that she changed the ending.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right, but I don't think, just my understanding, I don't think Columbo's clocked with that just yet. I think it's not until he speaks to Eileen that this falls into place.
That was the note that I took at that time. That was what I thought he was going to look at.
Okay, yeah, maybe. So we go to Eileen's house.
Straight away, yeah.
Yep. And she confirms that the outline is that of Eddie's book.
No, of Alan's book.
Yes, of Alan's book, yes, you're right.
Technically it's Eddie's book as well, in the way it's been presented, but yes. And she seems to accept it must be plagiarism, but she doesn't understand it. Or she certainly accepts it seems to be plagiarism.
Yeah.
But she says he wouldn't have to plagiarise it.
No, we have a clip here of her acceptance of this.
Well, I don't have to read any more, Lieutenant. This is the outline for Alan's book. I can't believe it. He wouldn't plagiarize this. He wouldn't have to.
Well, I'm sure you're right, ma'am, but I double-checked with the lab. That synopsis was definitely typed on Eddie Kane's typewriter.
Well, I wish I could help you, Lieutenant. I guess I can't.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
Sorry. Oh, Lieutenant.
Yes.
Your evidence.
Oh. I get preoccupied, I forget my head.
You know, that synopsis, it's as though Alan dictated it himself.
Wait a minute. Maybe he did. May I use your telephone?
Sure.
And I think that suggestion that she makes there, it's as though Alan dictated it himself.
Yeah.
That, I think, again, sets a marble rolling in Columbo's brain, I think.
Well, that's the Eureka moment of this episode.
It is, isn't it?
Because he tells her to keep reading whilst he makes a call. That's why I didn't think until I got to this scene that he actually put this all together.
Perhaps. But certainly she had only read the first couple of pages and had reached her conclusions, but he insists that she reads the rest of it.
Eileen McCrae was played by Mariette Hartley. She was born in 1940. She won an Emmy for a performance in The Incredible Hulk TV series in 1978. This is the first of 2 Columbo episodes she starred in.
Okay.
And she's also been in Gunsmoke, Bonanza, Love Boat, MacLeod, Rockford Files, Law and Order, and Grey's Anatomy.
Well, that brings us right up to the modern day.
It does, yeah. She's still working today. We leave Eileen's house. We go back to Riley's house, Greenleaf's house.
Yep. Very briefly, though, it's just to receive a phone call from Columbo asking him to attend at Mallory's office, where we're going to get our denouement.
Yes. So we, as you rightly say, we go to Mallory's office. And Greenleaf arrives, and for the first time appears very unsettled.
He's very erratic in this scene.
As soon as he arrives, he notices the two uniformed cops standing guard, and I think this puts him on the back foot a little bit.
He's not at ease at all.
Columbo is waiting for him at the typewriter.
Typing with one finger on each hand, I think.
And he mentions, again, like last week, he mentions the details of the Nelson Hayward case.
Yeah.
From Candidate for Crime.
This is quite interesting.
Yeah. And he's saying that basically what he's trying to do, he's got this great case and he's wanting to put it down on paper. He wants to type it up for this book that he's going to write.
Yeah.
Greenleaf, obviously, and rightly so, is not happy or interested in Columbo's books, and he tells them in no uncertain terms. He has a bit of a rant, doesn't he?
Well, this is it. He swings. His mood swings are remarkable in this scene because he's been in control. And I think he feels out of control at this point, and this is diagnosing the whole problem that he had. He couldn't just let things go when he had an advantage. He had to keep control. And now, at the end, he's not in control and he can't handle it.
Yeah. Columbo gets Greenleaf to confirm that Columbo himself told him about the other key.
Yeah, you get a line from Columbo. I knew I told someone. Only one person, but I told someone.
And that they actually found it on Eddie Kane's body.
Yeah. And then, so Riley jumps into his narrative. Oh yes, this fits. That must be what happened. But no.
Yeah, he can't understand the problem. It must have been the key that Eddie used to get in the other night.
And Columbo explains that, no, he had the locks changed again.
Yeah, well, he says that it would be impossible, and I think we see a dawning realisation come over Greenleaf's face. He's
made too many mistakes now.
Far too many mistakes. He doesn't know quite what it is yet, but I think at this point he realises Columbo is no mug and that something is about to happen.
Yeah.
And Columbo then brings in the locksmith, who tells Greenleaf that he fitted a new lock the day after the murder on Columbo's orders.
Yeah, and Greenleaf can't handle this information.
No. And Columbo says he's puzzled by this. And yeah, Greenleaf, he agrees, and he's no explanation, is he?
He's panicking at this point.
And then Columbo teases him with an answer that he found to another problem. He explains that Eddie didn't need a key, as the door was opened already in order to create a cross breeze. Greenleaf can't. The pressure's building on him here, and he can't handle it.
No.
And he gets very angry. He doesn't care about this talk of breezes, etc. We have a clip of this fantastic outrage.
You see, the air conditioner had broken down. That's why that window was open. You can actually hear the street noises on the tape. But you know, an open window on a muggy night's not much help. So I think Mr. Mallory must have opened that door. That created a nice cross breeze here. Now, when Mr. Kane arrived, well, the door was open. He just walked in. Mr. Mallory must have turned around and he shot him.
All right. If that is true, and it sounds conceivable enough to me, but I don't see how that changes anything.
About what, sir?
About what happened. Now, look, Columbo, I have had you up to here. And frankly, I'm not interested in locks and keys and open doors and air conditioners and how he got in here. What the hell difference does it make how he got in here? The fact is that some crackpot war veteran came in here, shot and killed Alan Mallory, and then frames me out of some insane belief that Alan and I stole his lousy little story. Now, that's all I know. And that's all I'm interested in.
I think we're perfectly capturing here the unraveling of our killer, or villain is perhaps a better word. He does become a killer, but yeah.
So he stormed out to the hallway. He's about to leave.
Well, he's about to try to leave.
Mm-hmm. And the manuscript lad, Walpert,
Columbo calls for him.
He arrives. He's been waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
And what happens here?
We've got a confrontation that takes place. Essentially, Columbo knows that Greenleaf has been receiving copies of all of Mallory's transcripts on a day-to-day basis of the story that he wasn't supposed to know about.
Yeah, he's been paid to pass this information to Greenleaf.
And that allows Columbo then to work out how the manuscript came to be in Eddie Kane's house. It allows him to piece it all together. And it comes down to whether the transcription boy is going to admit that there were additional copies being made.
He's in a sticky situation. He's under pressure here. Columbo is trying to put the pressure on him to admit what he has been doing.
Yep.
And Greenleaf is trying to pressurise him into staying quiet.
Yeah.
And Columbo outlines the plot or the plan and asks him if being an accessory to murder was part of the deal that he made with Greenleaf.
Yeah, and he's not up for that.
Crumbles at that, doesn't he?
Yeah, he tells them that Greenleaf's been getting extra copies and he's allowed to leave.
He does.
And then Columbo makes the point to Greenleaf that the endings don't work.
Well, Greenleaf insists that it proves nothing that he had received these manuscripts, these notes. That in itself doesn't prove anything, which is correct.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know what's happened.
The ending being changed.
Mm-hmm. So just clarify again.
We talked about this earlier. The ending originally was that the hero would die,
mm-hmm.
and that was changed to the hero going to a monastery.
Yes.
And the ending in the letter that Eddie apparently sent 9 months previously has the monastery finish.
Yes.
Which wouldn't work.
Impossible.
So that's the end of the episode.
And we see Greenleaf nod in confirmation of his predicament and guilt.
Yeah, I don't know that he will be found guilty for anything here, though.
Okay, well, let's have a quick chat then. So
yeah, we're going to come to that. So that'll be point 3 of our little roundup.
Yes. First point will be motive.
Yeah.
Fairly solid. Life insurance.
Well, not just the life insurance, also the fact he was losing the contract.
Yes.
So if he'd been keeping him on board, he wouldn't have needed to kill him for life insurance.
And Greenleaf has got an ego as well, doesn't want to see someone else, a rival, get the benefit of his
Perhaps,
star
but I think the money's the main thing, isn't it? If he was going to sell the book to make the money, that's
mm-hmm.
fine. Given that he can't, he'll take the money.
So we think, happy enough, it's a reasonable motive to kill here.
Yeah, and the motive to kill...
Not in real life,
Eddie,
obviously. We don't...
Sure. But for the... yeah. And the motive to kill Eddie's also strong. Covers up the...
Oh, he has to kill Eddie. Yeah.
Just whether the bomb was part of it, we're not 100% clear.
So we've gone to the clues and suspicions.
Yeah, so it starts off with things being a little bit too simple.
Okay, so we have... Yeah, it's a nice one. So we have, Greenleaf... he appears to be guilty. He's too guilty. Too obvious.
Which is what Greenleaf wants.
Yeah, but he's over-egged it. I think if he'd played it cooler and tried to not accept guilt, it'd have been a more natural, believable performance. So I think he's...
So that's another tipping point, or at least an indicator to Columbo. So he's got the clues that are laid out too conveniently.
Yes.
And he's got a apparent killer who's too keen. And then he seems to accept it's a frame job.
Mm-hmm. He
has to work out who and why.
Yep.
But then he's got the novel, so that connects his cases.
And he's got Eileen telling Columbo that Mallory was about to walk out in Greenleaf. So again, that's another...
So he knows there's a motive there.
Yeah.
And he finds out with life insurance.
And then we have Greenleaf somehow knowing that there were two people in the car. That was another
that's a little hint to him there again. And... Yep, so after Eddie's killed, he's got evidence there. He's got the connection between Eddie and Greenleaf.
He also mentions, and he's using the previous episode or the candidate for crime.
Yep.
So it's a situation where you've got a framing set up, so he understands that people can think like this. So he's using that experience to...
It's not really a framing, it just looks like a framing.
Yeah. So I think, clues and suspicions are all fair enough. Then we've got obviously the incidents with the keys, etc.
Yeah, and Columbo set up with the new locks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's quick. So obviously, when you understand that he maybe did that at the start when he originally suspected Greenleaf.
Yep.
And then it pays off later on against the odds almost because he's moved his focus, but then his original trap catches the killer. So
we're happy with motive. We're happy with clues and suspicions.
Yes.
We get to the gotcha moment.
Yeah, I'm going to take us back to what the lawyer said about circumstantial evidence.
Okay.
The only evidence against him is circumstantial. You can't place him at the scene of either crime. You can't place him in control of the weapon at the time of the crime. In fact, we know he definitely wasn't at the scene of the first crime, and the witness who can say he paid for it to be done is dead. So there's nothing really other than circumstantial evidence for the first crime. In terms of the second crime, you've got the documents. So the key thing here is to prove that those documents were not produced 9 months earlier. The only evidence for that is the witness testimony of Eileen McRae saying that she changed the ending. I don't know if that one witness's evidence is enough.
Okay.
She might just be saying that. She might just want credit for the ending of the story. I don't think you can convict a man of murder on the basis of her claiming credit for the ending of somebody else's story.
I'm going to disagree with you on this. I think the sort of gotchas and the proof is satisfactory. You mentioned the lawyer, but when the lawyer was talking, we didn't have this additional information. I think that the manuscript, yes, on its own, may not be enough to convict. However, how does he explain the new key being found on Eddie Kane's body when Columbo only one person knew about a lock being fitted? A key for that lock, he only told one person. How could that? Eddie Kane could not have known about that. Columbo only changed it after the murder. So, what possible explanation? And then when you add that to the manuscript, so you're saying, is that one testimony enough? Maybe not if that was the only piece of evidence. But if you add it to the key and only one person known, that would help to augment and support Eileen McRae's testimony.
You still don't have any evidence unless you get the locksmith to speak, which would nail him.
Yeah.
If the locksmith doesn't speak or can't remember or is sufficiently seedy that you never find out who it was,
okay,
then how do you tie, other than the fact that Riley knew that the lock was changed and a key was produced, there's still a missing link. You don't have the link between him and the key. It's just an assumption. It's a leap.
Okay, I'm going to say that there's certainly enough here to present to the DA to say, will we take this to court? And I think if it gets to court and you look at motive, you look at all the other clues, you look at the fact that he knew about... So Columbo will present this as a frame-up. So it's not just about the murder itself, it's about the entire plot, the entire scheme. And the prosecution will present the fact that he knew about this, the two people in the car. I think all the other little bits are enough. With these two pieces of real sort of evidence or clues, I think there's enough to convict here, based on when you paint the bigger picture. Nothing on its own, but I would be happy to get a conviction out of this.
We've got 3 weeks to think on it before we come to the end of the season and we can revisit this one.
Yeah, I think we will. So that's us, Ian, for Publish or Perish.
Yep. The verdict?
Loved it.
I enjoyed it as well.
Anything with Jack Cassidy, it really would have to be somehow terrible to not be a great episode when he's the villain.
Now, the last 2 weeks you said they didn't quite make it into the top tier because of slight flaws. How do you feel this week?
Yeah, but I've not really thought about my tiering system. But if we're talking about sort of A's and A pluses, etc., I think there are very few A pluses. I'd put this one in the A. Solid A. Maybe not the A plus. Maybe not the top. If I'm thinking top tier, I'm thinking perhaps top 5 of all time. And
okay.
I'll be honest, I've not actually thought for a while of my top 5. And even though I've watched all these episodes many times in the past, I have never watched it in one, in order before. Chronologically. And so I'll be revising my opinions as we go as well.
Sure.
I'm seeing the character develop for the first time. I'd say this was an A, not an A+.
Okay.
But I might come back to that.
You put it ahead of Candidate for Crime and Double Exposure?
I put those both at A.
So all 3 of those fit in the same bracket?
Yeah, I mean it's
behind Any Old Port?
Behind Any Old Port, Murder by the Book. I think those 2 are there. And maybe Double Shock. Really? Yeah. Well, okay. At the moment, I've got 2 A pluses.
Okay.
Yeah, Murder by the Book and Any Old Port.
Okay.
That and a lot of A's here. Great episode.
I think at this juncture, it's fair to say that season 3 is very strong, and the show appears to be coming into its own.
Yes.
For someone like me who's just watching it for the first time, and I hope that continues.
Okay, I'm sure it will.
Where are we going next week?
Okay, well I said that. Next week is an odd one. It's a Mind Over Mayhem, and I think it does divide opinions.
Okay.
It's not a dagger of the mind by any means, but it's one that it's one that might be interesting. It might not. There's certain things that might not hold up.
Well, if it divides opinions, hopefully it'll lead to a good conversation on this Columbo podcast.
It's certainly an enjoyable episode. I'm sure you'll find it enjoyable.
Great. Well, I look forward to that one.
Okay, well, I think that's us for this week, Ian, unless you have anything else you want to say.
No, I think we covered your trivia during the episode, so I think we can...
No, we haven't, sorry. Oh, we haven't.
Oh, we missed something?
Just quickly, well, I've not done the production info.
Oh, we better do that.
Yep. Let me just quickly get through this then. So we have the 18th of January 1974. It was the original air date at 73 minutes in length. It was written by Peter S. Fisher. of Murder, She Wrote fame. He created Murder, She Wrote, and was a writer on that show. This is his first of 9 Columbo episodes. So he'll become a stalwart. How did the dates
work? Was Murder, She Wrote later?
Murder, She Wrote was 84, I think it started.
Right. So he's done his Columbos by the time he gets onto them.
Yep. He was also is also a novelist, including the Hollywood Murder Mystery series.
Okay.
The director was Robert Butler, who also directed Double Shock.
We talked about him a bit at that point.
So this is his second. And one final piece of trivia related to Fisher.
Okay.
He wrote the character of Riley Greenleaf for Jack Klugman. Now that was the character who played Quincy.
Right.
Or the actor who played Quincy, I should say. But Levinson insisted that Klugman was exactly the type of person who should not play a Columbo killer. I'm not sure if you know Quincy, how well you know him, but
I don't.
He's quite similar to Columbo. He's not suave, he's not sophisticated, he's not arrogant. He is the sort of everyman downtrodden. He's a smaller guy.
You don't have that sort of set up. Okay. I think Cassidy did a good job with it.
Fantastic job. Love him. Brilliant.
Yeah. It's interesting that it's taken this long to bring him back.
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder if this was a banner episode, so maybe someone can tell us if it was highly trailed based on the first episode.
Sure. Okay, that is definitely us now, Ian. Thanks again to everyone, and we shall see you all next week.
Cheerio.
You have been listening to the Columbo Podcast from Heard Yet Media.